Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 video. In this video I'll bring you guys an Amara all-around build. This is going to be good for bossing, good for mobbing. So in case you guys don't want to be switching around between 3 or 4 different builds, this is going to be the best all-around build for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the skill tree real quick, and then we'll go over the synergies with some gameplay in the background. So we're going to start off here on the blue tree, and we're going to put 5 points into do harm. We're going to put 1 point into violent tapestry, 4 points into alacrity, 3 points into transcend, 2 points into restless, 1 into ascendant, 3 into wrath. We're going to max out laid bare as well. We're going to put 1 point into remnant, 2 points into awakening, and our final point into avatar. Then we're going to move on to the red tree, and we're going to max out Anima. We're going to max out Infusion. We're going to max out Tempest. We're going to put 1 point into Dread. And then we're going to max out Indiscriminate, put a point into Deep Well, and put 2 points into Sustainment. For our element, we're going to use whatever we need. Depends on the situation. Normally, I like to use this. Most of the time, I go with this, but it can vary. Just keep in mind that if you're going to be using Infusion, don't use weapons that match the same element, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. Except for when you're farming the Grave Ward or something, you can still use an incendiary weapon and it'll do well. But if you're mobbing, if you use an incendiary weapon while mobbing, this is going to affect its damage over time. It's going to be reduced, so I wouldn't recommend that. Then, of course, you want to take Ties That Bind whenever you're mobbing. And if you're bossing, you want to take Phase Cast. Or if you have a weapon that gives you 300% damage while after using Face Slam, then go with Face Slam. So whatever you need, you're going to have to use. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick mobbing build. I'll use Ties That Bind plus Stillness of Mind. If you're bossing, the augment doesn't really matter. But whenever you're mobbing, you want to use either Stillness of Mind, or if you want a little bit more health, you can go with Soul Sap. Because this actually stacks with Ties That Bind. So whatever damage is shared between enemies is returned. 35% of that is returned to you as health. And it's a big chunk of health. So this really helps out. And for the weapons, these are the weapons I like to take for mobbing. I like to take a Brainstormer and then 2 corrosive weapons, because these take a while to charge and to reload. So I like to take 2 of them. And for the final slot, I don't really take anything. This is just there for my bossing build. Whenever I do a bossing build, I switch out to Cutsman and this, and that's all I do. Oh, and I also use the Hazardous Sellout to burn myself, and use the Elemental Projector. I have an Elemental Projector Victory Rush for mobbing. Every time I kill a badass, I trigger Victory Rush. It gives me 18% movement speed and damage for 60 seconds. It also gives me an insane magazine size increase of 40%. That is absolutely crazy. I also like to use a Phaserker for every build that I do. And I like to use a Transformer. You don't have to use a Transformer, but this is just something I like to take. And for the grenade, I just take a Merv Hex. The grenade doesn't really matter unless you use them a lot. I don't really use grenades. I've noticed recently that I don't throw too many grenades, but if you're a grenade thrower, take something like a Merv Hex. It's really good. Now let's quickly go over the synergies. Anima, Tempest, and Infusion are going to give me extra elemental damage and just give me more damage over time. Anima is going to increase the status effect, damage, and duration. Tempest is just going to increase my elemental damage overall. And Infusion is going to convert some of my elemental damage into my action skill element. So that's why I don't really use incendiary weapons when mobbing. I could just use the Cash Infused Brainstormer, and 40% of that damage is going to be turned into incendiary. Dread is going to increase my gun damage for a few seconds after grasping an enemy, and whenever I kill a grasped enemy, my weapon will be instantly reloaded. Indiscriminate would give me a ricochet chance, and that ricochet chance is higher if I shoot a grasped enemy. Deep Well will increase my magazine size so I can do less reloading, and the less reloading you do, the more DPS you do. And for my only skill that's going to give me some lifesteal, it's going to be Sustainment. This skill is very important because it's going to be the only skill that's going to heal you. If it wasn't for this, you would have no healing. Now, Do Harm and Violent Tapestry, these are very important skills. They're going to provide me with stacks, total stacks of 10. Do Harm, for every stack, my action skill damage is going to be increased. And with Violent Tapestry, for every stack, my status effect chance will be increased. Reason why I put 5 points into Do Harm and only 1 into Violent Tapestry is because Violent Tapestry gives me extra status effect chance, but really, you don't really need that because you do a lot of status effects either way. But for Do Harm, it is very important to put all 5 points because Ties That Bind shares 35% of damage dealt between other enemies, and it stacks with Do Harm. So the more points you have in Do Harm, the more damage you're going to be sharing between the enemies. Now, Alacrity is going to increase my reload speed based on how many rush stacks I have. And thanks to this Mystical Assaultry, I get 10 points from the top perks from Do Harm and Violent Tapestry, and I get 10 more from Avatar at the very bottom. That's going to be a total of 20 rush stacks, plus 5 from my Phase Zerker class mod gives me 5 more, so that's a total of 25 rush stacks. My reload speed is going to be 1.6% times 25. That's how fast I'm going to be reloading. And also, whenever you use your action skill, it's 2.3% for every rush stack, so it's just more than 50% faster reload speed. Transcend is going to increase my critical hit damage. This is very good for bossing, and whenever you use Ties That Bind and Stillness of Mind, enemies are held in place, so it's really easy to get those headshots as well. Restless is just going to give me increased action skill cooldown rate. Normally I like to put 5 points on this one, but for this specific all-around build, 2 points is enough. Then I like to put 1 point into Ascendant. This is going to buff my action skill Augment. In this case, Stillness of Mind. Whenever I damage an enemy that's being held by Stillness of Mind, they instantly get out of that phase lock. But with this Augment, they'll take 0.75 seconds longer to get out of that phase lock, so it'll give me a little bit more time to get those kills. Laid Bare and Wrath are going to significantly increase my damage overall. Wrath is going to give me a 20% increase in gun damage and an extra 20% after action skill use. Laid Bare is going to increase my damage by 25% on enemies that have been affected by my action skill. So all the enemies that are affected by Ties That Bind take 25% extra damage for 8 seconds. Awakening is going to increase my rush stack effectiveness, so all the skills that have anything to do with rush stacks are going to have more effectiveness. Remnant is only used for mobbing. This is basically going to create an orb that's going to damage enemies, and it also carries overkill damage. So if I do 500,000 damage on an enemy and I kill him with, let's say, 2,000, the next enemy is going to get hit with a ton of damage. So that's why you got to use very powerful weapons so you can create that overkill damage on those little projectiles. And finally, Avatar is going to provide me with 10 extra rush stacks. And additionally, I can activate my action skill while it's cooling down. So I can essentially activate my action skill twice as much. So yeah, that's going to be it for Amara's all-around build. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is going to be a very good build for everything. You want to mob, go for it. You want to boss, you can use this for sure. The only thing I will say is if you want to survive Slaughtershaft with this build, it's not going to be the build for you. I will leave a link in the description for a very good Slaughtershaft Mayhem 3 build for you guys that add survivability for that. But this is an all-around build for people that want to go mobbing or just want to go bossing and just want to switch between the two without having to be switching out characters or constantly respecking your points. This build is really good for that. So anyways, guys, if you guys found this video helpful or enjoyable in any way, shape, or form, please help me out by hitting that like button. Also, if you are new around here and you like what you see and you want to subscribe, you can go ahead and do so as well. That's going to do it for me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.